Hello, everyone. This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host Darby Robinson. Darby, we are in like the weird part of the calendar, right? Where in between Christmas and New Year, nobody knows what day it is. But Merry Christmas, man, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's been nice to not even think about baseball, not kind of just sort of chill out and eat a lot of food. I don't know about you, but I'm just living uncomfortably stuffed daily. Like just like every day, every minute, I'm just like this. I have too much food in me while I reach for like another fresh baked item around the house. So
we did prime rib on Christmas Day, as we always do in my family. And then Christmas night with Eddie, my girlfriend, and her family, one of the members of her family is a Christmas baby. And so we did a birthday dinner on Christmas night at a Brazilian steakhouse. And so I did like prime rib for like the early, like 2:30, 3 o'clock dinner. And then at like 9 o'clock had Brazilian steakhouse, which the next day was like, I was just on, I wanted to be on the couch, but I had other things to do. But now I'm taking it easy because next week I'll be on a cruise. So,
which is well known for the amount of food that you can possibly put
we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions later in the episode. But in terms of mine and eating less and losing weight, it's going to have to be put off a week.
Yeah. Put that wood. Just that's a future Brett problem. Yeah. Right. No, that's this time of year. You gotta give yourself some grace period, right? You gotta
definitely.
No, that sounds amazing, but also that's you got to kind of like pace yourself for the holidays. It is a ringer. I also say this: I am older than you, and it doesn't get easier with age. I feel like I'm as winded as I am when I play sports, but it's just to be like, all right, that was. I'm just pounding Gatorade, trying to get my electrolytes up to get ready for the next meal.
All right. Well,
but it's good. It's good. It's a great time of year, right? We got New Year's. You got just this. This is the time of year of seeing family, having fun, eating a lot, and hope. There's always like some hope for a new year. So it's a great time of year. I do love this.
Yeah, and it's like a time where, for the most part, there's been a break in baseball news. There's been a few deals, a bigger one today. We'll get to that. And on a more serious note, there has been some news in the Wander Franco situation in the Dominican Republic in his investigation. We learned through multiple reports. And I'm going to be careful with my wording here because, one, a lot of this is being translated from Dominican media, and things don't always translate perfectly from Spanish to English, especially in news reporting. There were a few different terms thrown around, like raids on two properties in the Dominican Republic in search of Wander Franco. But again, I'll say that we know law enforcement was at two places in the Dominican Republic, and it had to do with the Wander Franco investigation. We don't really know what they were there for, who they were there for, if there was any warrants. They showed up, and he wasn't there. They did not speak with him.
Yeah, and then then there was news of basically a summons to appear to talk. It was not like a arrest warrant. It was just a summons. So maybe that was trying to serve the summons.
Yeah,
this has been the weird, like, so it's been about 6 months since Wander basically just got disappeared from the Rays, and the allegations kind of went out, and he got suspended and put on the administrative leave and all of that. Shockingly tight-lipped investigation by the Dominican Republic. There has been almost nothing, and even this new news we've got, barely anything there as well. Like, this is what they have or what they don't have has been held very tight. I mean, seemingly very professional. Like we have way worse leaks in this country with a lot of these kind of news things. Somebody is talking to somebody's cousin
Yeah.
who then announces something to Jeff Passan. You leak it to like Heyman or Bob Nightingale or something like that, and then Passan actually does some legwork to actually confirm it. Yeah, you don't leak it to Passan, you leak it to one of the Stooges, and then you kind of move it from there. But yeah, very little leaks, and but yeah, any other info you were able to glean today? I was trying to look through, but it's been very difficult.
Well, so getting back to the summons, which was scheduled for Thursday at 11 a.m., Wander Franco did not show up. So this has been, and ESPN has done some good reporting on this with some of their people in the Dominican Republic. So I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs from their latest update to the story yesterday. Quote, Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Wander Franco did not respond to a summons filed in the Dominican Republic to address allegations that he had inappropriate relationships with minors, the agency director said Thursday. Olga Dina Laverius said Franco did not show up to the Specialized Prosecutor's Office for Children and Adolescents at 11 a.m., the time he had been given to appear in Santo Domingo. Dina Laverius said the agency would continue with the investigation, but did not discuss details in a short news press conference with reporters. She goes on to talk about there's a few options in the investigative process, but now is not an opportune time to speak about that. There were also reports by the Associated Press and some other Dominican media that there are documents stating that Wander Franco has dismissed, fired his legal team, his lawyers, and that was when those lawyers responded to the summons saying, well, that's why we're not there, because we don't work for him anymore. So we can't force him to show up. I don't know. Some people online were speculating that this was to delay the summons and I guess assess their options. I have no idea why he didn't show up. Ultimately, however this is playing out, and maybe this was, maybe this will be, again, not knowing what is actually going down here. Maybe this will turn out to be a quote unquote good thing for Franco, delaying this and getting things situated. I don't know, but it's a really bad look. And it's gaining national news attention that he just didn't show up. And there's people, I think, assuming, and maybe rightfully so, that he's on the run from the law.
Right. So it's so tough with this case because of the lack of information, which is the proper thing to do. I think the Dominican police have been very tight-lipped, so kudos to them. And I guess to be fair to Wander's defense team, they've also not said a lot. It's been, these investigations have a proper course of playing out, and it should be played out in the court system rather than in the public. But usually that's not the case. And that's what makes this one so weird, is that we have not heard, honestly, much. And because of that, it is allowed for some rampant speculation online, because it you fill in the gaps, and all we have are basically gaps, right? He doesn't show up to the summons, whether that was a miscommunication or something else, legal strategy or not. We're going to start speculating and making memes about he's fleeing to Argentina or
he's
Russia.
In the back of the Bronco.
He's in the back of the Ford Bronco. Yeah, exactly. You're basically, he's on the run, which again, it looks like you're guilty, but again, that's not legally. That's not legally admit. That's just whatever. When people retain a lawyer to speak to the police, that's a good thing. That doesn't mean you're guilty. In fact, nobody should probably speak to the police without a lawyer present, especially if you've been summoned to that's just good legal advice, right? That's not I'm just going to do this. People have gotten into some really bad trouble, whether they did something or not, because you get into these situations, you start speaking, you start saying stuff, and it may not even be the truth, and you might end up painting yourself into a bad corner. So him having legal counsel present is important. If this is bad timing that he has fired his legal counsel and now is trying to get new legal counsel, and that's why he missed it, that's it. That could be a reasonable explanation. But because we don't know that, you're basically back to the Ford Bronco. We don't know how many allegations there have been. We don't know exactly what they are. It's been incredible lack of information, which has allowed for basically speculation for wild stuff and kind of the worst case scenario, right? He seems and looks guilty because of the actions, and guilty of what we don't know, but we're going to speculate to kind of these more like the worst case scenarios. So almost everybody on my Twitter mentions, were basically like, can the Rays get out of this contract? What's that look like? What's the moral clauses? And all of that is interesting to think about, because like the MLB Players Association is not going to allow teams to void contracts easily. And they shouldn't. Even if like that player is like a morally reprehensible person, like it is their job again to represent those contracts and get players money. And if you allow easier times of voiding contracts, that will be exploited basically. So you kind of work with that. But it's like we're getting to that point. We haven't even had a trial. We don't know anything. So there hasn't been charges. He hasn't been arrested. Like this has been a very wild thing. But yeah, this has just been one more. Anytime there's been any information, because there's been so little, it allows to basically people to paint more of the picture.
Right.
But we're really working like in the dark here. This has been kind of remarkable. It's been very frustrating as well, because you just kind of want to be like, is he guilty? Can we just move on? Or what's happening? And I think there's that lack of closure, or at least even like that sense, like, I feel like with Deshaun Watson's situation, there was a bit more of people being like, I'm done with him. Or Trevor Bauer instance, there's definitely been their defenders of these people, but like a lot of people just decided, like, I'm done with this person, because whether it's all the way to that legal extent or maybe just slightly below the legal extent, I don't love this character of this person. I want to be done with it. The lack of that ability to just have that information to make your own decision right now with the Wander Franco case has been, I think, really frustrating to a lot of people, because it's so in the dark about what is happening, what is going on, where things stand. And this doesn't help, because at least if there was a summons, that probably ends with either one of two ways: the person leaves not in handcuffs, or the person stays and is arrested. But if you don't show up, we don't know which is which.
And there was a ton of Dominican media waiting outside that building. I don't know if it was a courthouse or some sort of other police building. And they were all ready to photograph and video Wander Franco walking in that morning, and it didn't happen. So it does feel like things are moving now. Things are happening. Maybe evidence has been gathered or hasn't, and we're getting to a point where we're going to start finding out more information. But again, we don't know what, and we don't know when, we don't know how. There was another report out of, again, like, I don't know how to gauge the credibility of some of these Dominican outlets the same way it's hard to gauge credibility of American journalism these days. But another report came out today that like Wander has hired a new attorney. They're in communication. They're cooperating to some extent, and they're going to, respond to the summons and show up for questioning soon. So I don't know. We'll see. Nothing will happen until it happens. But we've got to keep providing updates, because not only is he such an important piece for the Rays, but as we kind of look at the offseason and what the needs are for the Rays, whether or not you're going to have Wander Franco is a big thing.
Yeah. No, I would love to be a fly on the wall of Erik Neander's office and kind of hear the conversations that are going on about like, how are they proceeding with this plan? Because the Rays, I think, have handled this situation, this extremely difficult and challenging situation, extraordinarily well. Basically, the day allegations come to light, Wander Franco disappears from the team. Within 24 hours, almost any trace of him in Tropicana Field is gone. And the team has basically said, we're complying. There should be an investigation, and that's that. The end. And I think that's the right thing to do. Is like, we're going to focus on our team. Wander is no longer a part of that team for right now until this investigation is complete. MLB, Dominican police, full cooperation. Godspeed. Let's go. And that's exactly what you should do as a team, right? You're in this situation. You can't vet everybody. You can't know everything. Something comes to light. Let the proper authorities handle that. And what you should do as a team is do exactly what the Rays did, which is just move on right now. Like, they can't cut him necessarily. They can't do that. He's back from the administrative leave because that doesn't exist during the off season. So he's on the 40-man roster currently, but then almost certainly will not be on the 40-man roster come at least the start of next year. There might be some suspension from MLB, maybe not. Who knows? But I imagine the Rays are going to be playing in the Dominican Republic in a few months.
Yeah.
There is no mention of Wander on any of that promotional material.
Who is like one of the biggest young Dominican stars. And I was in the Dominican Republic this past year, and like, people talk about Wander Franco. Like, this was before the allegations came out. And they talked about him like he was like, I mean, he is their next big thing. And he's still so young and was already one of the best players in all of baseball last season at 22 years old. Incredible player. And so you'd think whenever those discussions for the Rays to play in the Dominican in March, Wander Franco would have been a big part of those discussions. And I don't think it was announced until after he was placed on administrative leave, but that was definitely a part of it. You bring one of your biggest stars and, have him play for his team in his home country. And almost certainly that won't happen. So we're going to move on, and we'll provide more updates when they're made available, but we just needed to kind of, get caught up to speed. And there was some real news for the first time in a while with this investigation. So hopefully we're getting somewhere. Darby, okay, so there's been some news around the league. We'll start with the most recent, and that is Lucas Giolito coming to terms on a contract with the Boston Red Sox. So the Red Sox, who have been, I guess, pretty inactive so far this offseason. They did trade Alex Verdugo, and then they brought in Tyler O'Neill, which is like, I don't know, doesn't really move the needle for me. But this Giolito signing is interesting. I think it comes with some risk. But that risk could pay off. Like, I think there's still a couple of really good Lucas Giolito seasons in the tank somewhere.
Giolito is a really interesting pitcher to kind of pin down or predict what he was going to get this offseason, what kind of market there would be for him. He had maybe the worst second half of any pitcher in baseball. Yeah. He was atrocious. And his first half was not great, but it was not bad. It was, I mean, he actually had, I mean, it was looking at the numbers, like I think the White Sox stain of disappointment hurt him a little bit, but he was having a really solid season. 3.79 ERA, 4.43 FIP, so not super great there. A little tagged by the homers, but 121 innings. Again, very consistent kind of innings churning pitcher. He's gotten over 150 innings. 2020 notwithstanding, 150 innings plus in each of his since 2018, and 2020 he made every start available. So he has basically been a very reliable workhorse arm, and has been a very good workhorse arm. Like he was 5.2 FWAR in 2019, 2 FWAR in 2020. So prorated, that's another 5.5 win season. Again, if everything continues that way, and then 4.1 FWAR in 2021. really, really solid. Struggled a little bit in 2022, but still 30 starts, pretty solid. And then even this year, first half, again, very consistent, very solid. Maybe not spectacular. Like there's been flashes of that first round talent, that high ceiling, that potential Cy Young caliber level guy. It seemed like he maybe wasn't ever going to be that, but like really good number 2 starter was right there. And then the second half of this year, traded to the Angels when the Angels were trying to make moves to do something, and every move failed horrifically. Like every trade they made was the worst outcome possible. They're a cursed franchise. The Mets feel probably some sympathy. Mets fans, and you should never have empathy from a Mets fan or pity, because you're down pretty far in the curse standings if they're going, man, geez, that's some bad luck. But yeah, with the Angels, 6 starts, 30 innings, just disaster. 6.89 ERA, 6.81 FIP. Then gets cut because the Angels put basically everybody besides Shohei and Trout on waivers, free to anybody that would pick them up and pay the rest of the deal to save some tax money. And the Cleveland Guardians picked him up, 30.2 innings there, better strikeout rate, but 7.04 ERA, 6.94 FIP. Both of those negative 0.3 F WAR in LA with the Angels, and then negative 0.4 wins above replacement with the Guardians. Horrific second half, but that really does obscure what he was, which was a workhorse, solid upper third starting pitcher. And he got a deal much more in line with the guy we saw in maybe 2021 and 2022, which was the really good to maybe solidly good, but not maybe that consistent top of the line ace or just step below ace, at least in terms of money.
Yeah. Just, I guess, for how this is going to affect the Red Sox, I think it does make their pitching staff better. I think if you're a Red Sox fan, you're probably going into this season feeling more confident in that rotation, but still not a very high level of confidence. This is I don't know. This rotation could go bust by the summer, and you've got Chris Sale and now Giolito, Nick Pivetta, Brian Bello, Tanner Houck. Let me look in there. I know they've got a couple like Cutter Crawford. They just got Cooper Criswell from the Rays, right? Interesting arm. But just like, again, you've got some injury prone guys. You've got some guys that like Giolito, where you don't know if they still have it. And then a lot of young guys. And it feels like with the Red Sox, they finished in last place last year, 72 and 84. I think every other team in the American League East has a clear plan. Mm-hmm. And I know Craig Breslow is new in the job. Chaim Bloom was fired, so maybe we need to give him some more time to like figure out what that plan is going to be and make the moves required to get the Red Sox back on track. But I look at all the other teams in the American League East who were all really, except for the Yankees, they weren't competitive, but I think they do have a plan. And I think it has a good chance of work. Like they went out and acquired Juan Soto, right? The Blue Jays, they're star hunting. They were in it for Soto. They were in it for Ohtani. They were in it for maybe Yamamoto. Like they haven't gotten it yet, but they know they've got a really strong core right now, and they're going for maybe we're one superstar away, which they very well like. They would still need good. Baseball's not that type of sport, clearly, right? With the Angels, but
with the Padres,
But when you've got that young core with Bichette and Guerrero who are entering their primes and maybe not looking like they're going to stay with Toronto forever, maybe you go out and you get a big star to not only help you win now, but maybe be on your team for the next 10 years and be solidified. So the Blue Jays, it's clear what they're trying to do. The Orioles, they're really young. They're really exciting. Play the kids and maybe bring in a couple pitchers and see what happens.
This is an interesting, I agree. I think the Red Sox plan right now, if you can call it anything, getting Tyler O'Neill and Lucas Giolito if you flash back like 3 years, that's a pretty big move. That's a pretty big offseason right there. Right now, it's very, very much prospect, or at least even major league, not even prospect shine, but like major league shine is completely off both of those players. Solid, but chance to rebound, but definitely in that, like, not competing this year, like not making the moves to move the needle a lot, but making moves that could move the needle if things fall their way. There is a lot. They are a delicate house of cards, not too dissimilar to the Rays in maybe like 2017, 2018, where you're seeing a plan in place. They're putting a lot of pieces together to potentially taking some nice risks on vets. Giolito, I mean, they paid a pretty solid amount. That's not a cheap deal. Tyler O'Neill was a nice, I think, cheap acquisition to see, like, hey, maybe he can finally. He's had one great year, and it's been sandwiched between just really bad years. See what he can do in Boston. I like the Giolito signing. I mean, I think he immediately lengthens that pen, gives you at least somebody who you can count on again for 150 plus innings, which is good. If he can kind of round back into form, he becomes a guy that you can count on, and maybe you can do some stuff. But with the rest of that division, you need to do a lot more than this, I think, to get into that range. You can maybe catch, if everything goes right with you can move up. And then if everything kind of goes wrong with another team, they can slide down. But you still have to go a little bit further to get to that postseason push, to get to a wild card, to get to a division title. So I don't think this does that, but I do like the move. I think it's only dollars. It's only money. John Henry can pay. He didn't want to pay Mookie, but he can pay. He should be able to spend a little bit. And Giolito is a nice bounce back. I actually kind of think this is a move. This isn't a move the Rays should make, because that is kind of rich for a guy that you really don't know if he's available or can ever be that again, or if that fastball is just dead fish.
Right.
And it looked awful last year. And with that fastball being that bad, he is kind of an unworkable pitcher, but he's got to be able to kind of work back into that. I kind of feel like it's very weird. The Orioles are the team in this division, and there's still time for them, but like, gosh, I really think the Orioles could have used a Lucas Giolito type. They let Jack Flaherty go. I kind of feel like their rotation is not that great. Giolito immediately jumps into the Red Sox rotation, and by at least Steamer becomes their third highest wins above replacement pitcher behind Bello and Sale. But right in there, like we're talking fractions of a point away. That's the kind of like length that I would probably want more if I was the Orioles, who just started like Dean Kramer in a postseason game, and you have John Means coming back from an injury, and even when he was healthy, he was okay, but not great. I don't know. It feels like I think the Red Sox made a solid move here to add some depth. I think both the kind of the Yankees and the Red Sox here. I would have liked this move a lot more if the Orioles made it, or if the Yankees made it, especially if the Yankees made it, because one, if he's bad, yay, that would be very fun. But two, I think the Yankees pitching development system is second only to the Rays in the AL East. And I actually think that would have been a great spot for him. It would be a great fit for the Yankees to kind of be in the fourth or fifth spot on that rotation, and a really great spot for him to kind of relearn kind of how to succeed. And he's a very smart guy. Like Lucas Giolito, you hear interviews, he's a student of the game. He's a guy that really focuses on the craft and is willing to learn and tinker. And so with Boston, I hope it kind of works out. I really do like Lucas Giolito, the person. So I kind of hope to see him have some success and then get some big money elsewhere. But
right.
Yeah. Good move for the Red Sox, but I just don't know if that moves a lot for them.
as things stand right now, and there's still plenty of like good pitchers, and I think there will be some other notable moves in the American League East.
Blake
do you,
Snell is still out there.
yeah,
Like the reigning NL Cy Young winner does not have a deal still.
I think you'd have to assume that like the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and hell, maybe Baltimore would be interested in Snell. Like Baltimore would be interested in Snell. I don't know if they can sign him, if they'll pay for him.
Baltimore's in a very tough spot. They have one of the amazing talent, but their ownership is very, very cheap.
Yeah, what's going to happen to this team when everyone is arbitration eligible in like 2 years?
Angelos has already sort of said, like, enjoy everybody while you can.
Yeah.
Like he's already kind of said that, not even like hinted, but like kind of said, like,
I mean, if you're
be careful with our money.
If you're and I want to focus more on the Red Sox in a second, but the Orioles real quick. I mean, your priorities have to be Rutschman, Henderson, and then churn everyone else out and do what the Rays like. The Rays will lock up their very best players, and then they will ship out a bunch of other guys to keep the thing going.
See if like Jackson Holiday will take a 12-year deal.
Yeah, they should also lock up Holiday before he debuts. I think that's
like he's I mean, again, it's always easier said than done. Like offer this person
and there's a new market rate for that, and I think Holiday would reset that with the Chourio deal with Milwaukee.
100%. Yeah. No, I think Holiday is this level of like we mentioned Wander. Like I think that's like the type of level you would have to get is like that almost like superstar money right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, the tough thing with Holiday is like it takes two to tango. Does he want to do that? Like he has got a cushion that a lot of athletes coming in from high school or international or even college don't have, which is his dad is his dad's very successful, long time Major League Baseball player. So
who's
probably
been
knows
traded
about the business
and signed.
He signed a few contracts in his day. He knows the business. He knows how fickle it can be. He's made a pretty penny, so it's not like he's going to be, needing money right off the bat. It's a tough one. I don't know if he would be all that. You're not going to get a deal. You would have to accept a considerable amount of risk along with it to get the reward of that. But yeah, it's interesting to see the Orioles offseason right now. And I think the Yankees are in a similar boat. Like these are two teams that have all of the talent to compete for the AL East crown. I think the Red Sox still need to move a lot more. I think that's the thing. I think right now you have the Blue Jays, you have the Rays, you have the Orioles, and you have the Yankees. And any four of those winning the division, not very surprising. I think you could, if you flash forward several months from now and say like the 2024 AL East champs were insert one of those four teams, I don't think anybody would be like, that's insane. I think if you said the Red Sox, you'd go like, what the hell happened this year? Right. And that's, I think, the big thing is I think Giolito, like maybe he becomes an ace again, but you still need Chris Sale to stay healthy. You still need Bello to make a step up. You need that outfield to produce any amount. Like you need, like, that's a lot. You're asking a lot. That like rotation, I think is solid. The lineup is basically Rafael Devers, a superstar, and question marks all the way down. Like Yoshida is really good, but like, is he a difference making bat or is he a really good outfield bat? Like Casas looked really, really good at first base, but he's going to need to take that step up even further. He definitely could, but like they have a lot of question marks. So I don't mind adding a vet to that, but it's definitely one of those that's another question mark.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think we're kind of on the same page that like, if I had to pick the worst team in the American League East right now, it's Boston. There's also, I think, plenty of universes in which they don't finish last place in 2024. Okay. Like things can go right, and I don't see them winning the division, but they could finish fourth or maybe be third and be in the wild card conversation. And maybe everything goes right and they do make the postseason and they find a couple other young arms that step up. But like right now, if I had to pick, I think I'd put them fifth. And that's to say you'd be fifth in the best division in baseball. Like if the AL East has reclaimed,
Probably win the Central. Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be you had the Yankees and the Red Sox, who were always two of the best teams in the American League. And then usually, like, even, before the Rays, one of the other teams would step up and have a decent season. Now I think and it was still considered maybe the toughest division then. Now I think it's seen as like you said, four teams that are all going to be in the pennant discussion going into the season. And then Boston, who's, probably a 500 team. And like you said, could win the American League Central. So an interesting move. And I think one, you shouldn't fault the Red Sox for making. They went out and they signed a guy. Their team is better. And sure, there's risk involved in that. But, again, we argue that like the Rays, they're not going to sign these types of players. And I don't think they should. But someone should. And it was the Red Sox.
The Rays also have a lot less risk in their rotation. There is still risk, you have Boz coming back from injury, you have Taj Bradley, but I mean, I think this is the thing is like you have Taj Bradley as like maybe he makes the rotation, maybe he doesn't. The Red Sox need that their own Taj Bradley and Bello to not only be as good as he was last year, but better. So that is considerably more risk. It's not like having Zach Eflin and Aaron Savali. Like Aaron Savali would have been one of the Red Sox best pitchers last year. And for the Rays fans were complaining about, the inconsistency. So I think it's a different setup. I think the fact that it's also a 2-year deal, you're not going to be stuck with like a lot of dead money. If he really has fallen apart in the second half of last year is the true Lucas Giolito, which I don't believe. Even if it is the case, it's 2 years. John Henry will find that in his couch cushion. He's fine. He'll be fine. Yeah. The Red Sox ownership group will not be missing the $38.5 million they spent on this.
Some other news: the Toronto Blue Jays have re-signed Kevin Kiermaier to a 1-year contract. So it seems like he's found his second home. Spent quite a while with the Tampa Bay Rays organization. Like it was 9 seasons, I believe, or eight full seasons. And now he went and played with Toronto last year, had maybe the best year in his career, and is back again with the Blue Jays. And I'm happy for both sides. I'm happy that we'll get to see Kiermaier play a few times throughout the season and that he still has a big league home. I kind of thought after this year, maybe he isn't a full-time center fielder anymore, but it looks like he will be with Toronto.
Toronto's interesting. There was a lot of talk about Cody Bellinger going there, which I kind of was hoping for because I think that's Cody Bellinger's a dangerous landmine that is going to cost a lot of money and Cody Bellinger is like the inverse Lucas Giolito. He's come off many bad years. And now he finally had a breakthrough year, but now you're having to pay for that in much longer length and money.
Yeah.
And it could go back. Whereas Lucas Giolito is coming off of several good years and then one terrible year, and you're getting it right at that perfect time. So the Blue Jays so far have dodged that and instead went with, again, Kevin Kiermaier, the defensive guy. And I think that's such a smart choice for them. I mean, they traded a really good catcher, which they have 3 of at the time, which is very frustrating. But they traded Gabby Moreno to the Diamondbacks for Dalton Varsho, and that's their left fielder. So they're not even using Varsho's defensive expertise to its fullest extent. With Kiermaier and Varsho, whichever way you want to slice them out there, it's an amazing outfield of coverage, and it helps because you can cover Springer's sort of. He's losing a little bit of a step out there in the outfield. With Varsho and Kiermaier, they can still cover pretty much everything. Also, you mentioned maybe his best year as a career. Not even close. Don't you dare just slander 2015 through 17. Like that was maybe the 3 best defensive years of any outfielder. And he also had like a 100 WRC plus. Actually, it was like 113 in one of those or 110, something like that. So like how dare you? You're not going to slip past me.
I-
He was very
think-
good last year. Very,
Yeah.
very good.
Maybe it was
But
my
he was
my
not
recency
platinum
bias.
glove. Not platinum glove. He was the greatest defensive player in Major League history for like a period of like 3 straight years. Pete with that was a guy who just retired, actually, in Andrelton Simmons.
Yeah, relative to my expectations for Kevin Kiermaier in 2023, I should have said that he had a really good season, and he played 129 games, had 400 plate appearances, and so it was one of the better years of the second half of his career. But yeah, looking back, I mean, the defensive numbers and some of the offensive numbers, some of the power he was putting up in those early seasons with the Rays was pretty outstanding. Another
great deal,
signing,
great deal, awesome for Kiermaier, and I love it for the Jays. You don't need a lot of offense from him. You have that with everything else in the lineup. So yeah, I think it's a really smart move for the Jays.
Another signing that we haven't gotten the chance to talk about yet, but Yoshi Yamamoto has signed a 12-year contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the richest contract for a free agent pitcher. And I mean, who else could it have been?
Yeah, no, that's the team that signs free agents. Mm-hmm. I don't know why nobody else signs free agents. They're the team that signs like actual marquee free agents. Great move for them. Yeah. Like they're one of the I mean, everything that goes to the Dodgers, this is now, I will say in the last pod, we talked about how Ohtani to the Dodgers is obviously huge for a number of reasons, financial, cultural, game wise, like impact talent. But we mentioned at least I was sort of saying, like, I don't think Ohtani, again, at least next year, especially as just a hitter, moves the needle that much for the Dodgers in the sense that they were already a great offense. Ohtani makes them really good, but like they already put up enough runs to win over 100 games. That's you're not necessarily, you can only bat 4 times a game. You're taking that from a other really good batter to go to even better batter. It doesn't move the needle as much. Yamamoto is a big needle mover. Like that is their biggest weakness coming into this offseason was pitching. This is a team that started Lance Lynn in the postseason, and it went disastrously, as one would expect. And it seemed like the Dodgers were like basically not wanting to ever have happen. And traded for Tyler Glasnow, signed Yamamoto. Immediately, that rotation suddenly goes from a weakness to a strength. And this is even without maybe Clayton Kershaw, who is still a free agent, though Glasnow wants to bring him back. This is with needing Walker Buehler to come back healthy. This is with having Dustin May need to come back healthy. And this is with Julio Urias in serious legal jeopardy to potentially never play Major League Baseball again.
We know something about that.
Yeah, losing a superstar to horrible off the field stuff. But it's sometimes nice to have like an extra $500 million to spend when that happens. Right. I mean, Yamamoto is amazing. It also gave us maybe the most annoying day on Twitter, and on baseball Twitter, I should say, in recent memory, with the Yamamoto versus Paul Skeens debate. Were you wading into this at all?
I tried my best not to. It seemed ridiculous because first off, who the hell cares? Secondly, Yamamoto, like, okay, I get Paul Skeens. Like, we can agree he is going to be an awesome pitcher. He throws the ball very hard, very well. And Yamamoto, like, the argument, I guess, started with him getting such a large contract, having never thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball, which, again, there's risk involved. I think most people agree that Yamamoto will be more than fine, will probably be a multi-time all-star, But is that a floor that you're capable of giving such a contract to? I don't know. So Paul Skeens, first off, like, I don't know, he was just pitching in college in a very good college league in the SEC, and he dominated it, and he did really well in the postseason. I don't know, like, he's just like pitching in a professional league like the NPB for that long is different, and it's different experience than what Paul Skeens had at LSU. So I don't think I don't know, like, I don't really care, but I guess my opinion is Yamamoto had the ability to make that money. The Dodgers had the money to give him, and I think it'll probably work out for them.
To me, it's like twofold argument, right? Because it kind of jumped off because Mayo and Callis, the MLB.com prospect gurus, sort of said, like, where would you rank Yamamoto if as a prospect? Which they don't do anymore. I think that used to be because he's coming over professionally. I think it used to be like with like Ichiro and Hideki Matsui, they would still count in the prospect rankings, but that clearly became like a very unfair and silly comparison because these were grown adults who had been playing against adults for a long time and were quite good at baseball.
Right.
But they said, I think Mayo said he would put him 8th behind Paul Skeens, and then Callis said like 11th to 13th behind Skeens, which I'm sorry, but that's baffling. I would never say that. Like, you would have to torture me and I still wouldn't say that that's where I put him, because you're saying that there's 10 to 12 players. Like, even the Paul Skeens part of it is like its own thing, right? Like, if you think Paul Skeens is a generational talent and he's younger, so you think he is going to just be that much better, but like Yamamoto is just like 1B, fine. If you said like number 2 or number 3 behind Skeens, I think people would still be like, that's wrong, but a little bit more defensible.
Right.
Saying that not only is he below a pitching prospect who's pitched against, again, college kids, but also behind like a dozen other like prospects who have not played at a higher level. That is baffling. There is something wrong with your projection system or your ranking system that gets you to that, right? You're either doing too much negative on age, or I don't know what. I also, the frustrating element of this was that, like, why are you giving Yamamoto all this money for this? Like, maybe he's worth that, but like, that's crazy to give to that much. That's just basically making the argument that like the draft is such a horrifically unfair thing. If you're saying Paul Skeens is better than him, and it's like, well, if he is better, if you think he's better, then he is horrifically underpaid. Because if you think Paul Skeens, right, if he was better and was in the open market, was getting a 12-year, $300 million deal, then like bang the table against the MLB draft system. Right. Because that's awful. That is like maybe the single worst. Like, I don't think he would, though. That's the problem. Is like, at the end of the day, I agree, though, the draft is, clearly not helping for the labor side of things, or players allowed to earn their most money, but it's there for competitive balance. Paul Skeens is still not getting a 12-year deal on the open market for $300 million. Yamamoto has done this against professionals. Like, there is a huge difference. He has done it at a huge level. And also, why are we making this argument about Yamamoto being ready? We saw him in the World Baseball Classic. We saw him strike out Team USA, which is filled with all-star level talent. Like, so we've seen him with the Major League Baseball. Absolutely. And we have track band data and biometric data to show like that fastball works. The breaking stuff works with the baseball against Major League all-star caliber hitters. That is humongous. Like that's crazy. Like I think it's just, I found the arguments somewhat insulting to every party involved. Like Paul Skeens does not deserve to be dragged into this because he is a really talented pitching prospect. But I think even he would say, like, yeah, the guy who has pitched professionally for longer and is older is currently better than me. Like, I don't think that's not a complicated argument. That's not something that disses Paul Skeens. It's not something that insults anybody. But I also found it just to be such a deeply insulting view of Nippon Baseball League.
Right.
Like, that's a really good league.
It's
that's a
probably
high caliber league.
Like, I'd argue it's the second best league in the world. Obviously you've got Major
Some
League
could say
Baseball.
AAA.
Yeah, you could
AAA
do
would be
the International League and the Pacific Coast League. I think
Yeah.
which are probably about the same, and you assume. Maybe I'm sure year to year one is more
Yeah.
talented than the others. And then the NPB is like right there.
Right.
And so take your pick. And he's done that, and he's 25 years old now and has pitched in professional seasons, right? Which is different than very different from the college
Yes.
season. And so Skeens, like, just from a development as a baseball player, and if you've talked to professional baseball players, they tell you the minor leagues is teaching you how to be a major leaguer, how to be a professional. There's a lot less instruction about the game, and it's just about how to do this as a job and as your life, because it's very different. And no other level are you just playing every single day. You don't have practices are not a thing. In professional baseball, you are playing, and you have to figure out how to deal with injuries, how to going through slumps, and build a routine to play at a professional level. So Skeens, like, doesn't need much time, but he does need some time to kind of grow as a pitcher at the professional level. And I imagine we'll see him very, very soon.
Sure.
And he'll be awesome too, because I think they're both really cool pitchers. And I just know there's going to be some weird internet rivalry now whenever they inevitably pitch against each other, and no one else is going to care.
It's just absolute.
Yamamoto probably doesn't know who Paul Skeens is.
He shouldn't. Like, it's not even insulting. He shouldn't. Like,
Yamamoto's like, I was just pitching for a championship, like a World Series.
18 strikeouts in what, game 6?
Right.
Of the Japan series or something like that. It's maybe 16 strike. It was like an absurd. Oh my god, yeah, no, Yamamoto is absolutely sick nasty, and it's like, it's crazy that we have to make it, especially now. Like that, I think so much of baseball discourse, right, is now there's so much stuff that's like reverbing back in time, like the anti-Moneyball stuff and analytics stuff, where we're talking about like that doesn't work in September and October, and it's like, what are we talking about, man? It's 2023. It's about to be 2024. Like, why are we bringing up these arguments in 2023? We're talking about like giving a lot of money to a Japanese baseball star after we just saw Shohei Ohtani, and we've lived through like Hideki Matsui and Daisuke Matsuzaka and Ichiro Suzuki. Like, what are we talking about, man? Like, we've seen the best, biggest, hugest, massive mega stars of the NPB become really good here, because, like, guess what? That's a really good league. And if you're dominating that, you're going to be probably pretty good in Major League Baseball. So, like, why are we going backwards in time with some of these arguments? It's frustrating, because it's like, we have to progress into the future. We can't keep going backwards in time to be like, well, who is this guy? What? Japan plays baseball? What's going on here? It's like, guys, it's 2023. We have some pretty ample evidence of this.
As with most things on baseball internet discourse, it's just really stupid and probably not worth much more of our time, because we do have to get to New Year's resolutions. So okay, so here's the game. It is almost the start of 2024, and even though we're a few months away from baseball season, I wanted to come up with some New Year's resolutions for the Rays. So just anything Rays related. Those are the parameters. I've got 2 right now. I know we said to have 3. I've been trying to think of one. Maybe one will come to me once we get this exercise started. So with that being said, I'll let you give out your first New Year's resolution for the Rays.
Well, the biggest New Year's resolution we kind of talked about at the start of the show: eating healthier, being healthier, and there could not be any higher resolution for the Rays in 2024 than to be healthy,
right,
and be available. The best ability is availability, and the Rays the last few years have gotten some really bad luck with injuries. Let 2024 be the year that they are their healthiest and best selves. That is the top resolution I have. I have others, but that is, I think, the top of every Rays fan's hope for this team. And I'm sure the team itself they're really good. And if they were there and healthy, what could they do? So let this be the year.
And just like all New Year's resolutions, it'll be over in a week.
Yep, Bruin. Back to the drawing board. 2025 it is.
Mine is somewhat related. It's a specific New Year's resolution for Kevin Cash. And it is to use your DH to get some of those more injury-prone players off of their feet. I'm talking specifically about Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lau. So Kevin Cash, if you could just give those guys more of a rest, where we want their bats in their lineup, because obviously Yandy Diaz had another career year and was, on the MVP ballot. Brandon Lau, I'd like to see return to form a little bit. Use them as the DH. Harold Ramirez was the DH 91 times, and I expect him to finish with the most DH appearances again this year if he's on the team. I don't see any player having more than him, but maybe I don't want him starting in over half the games as the DH. Maybe we can just use those to rotate, where you'll have some infield depth, right, with Curtis Mead and then Jonathan Aranda that could fill in for Brandon Lau if you need to DH him. Brandon Lau played in like over 100 games last year and only 4 as a designated hitter. He had 105 games at second base. Yandy Diaz played 119 games at first and only 13 as a designated hitter. And while I think sometimes like some of these players have come back at the end of the year and they've been healthy enough to play in the postseason, I feel like sometimes, and it's visible, it's noticeable, they're healthy enough to play, but that doesn't mean that they are healthy come the start of the postseason. Doesn't feel like they're necessarily at their best. And so not only do I want to see Diaz and Lau healthy in the postseason, I want to see them at their best. And I think DHing them a few more times throughout the season is going to help that.
I like that. A good resolution. My next resolution is not so much the team on the field, but it's the field underneath the team. My second resolution for the Rays in 2024 is to keep the positive momentum and progress towards finding a forever home in the Tampa Bay area. There's been a lot of push, a lot of movement. Things are looking much more promising now than they have been in any point in the last decade plus of this stadium drama. Honestly, 20 years plus, because the stadium was antiquated right off the bat. Keep that positive momentum. Don't have a step back. Don't have a slip up. Let's get a shovel into the ground in 2024, or at least some movement.
Yeah,
some cats near moving to the area.
Dirt being pushed around.
Just push some dirt. Just cut a ribbon. A golden shovel into some dirt just to signify like it's happening. Once that first shovel goes in, my God, it doesn't mean it's over. It just means that it becomes much harder to move everything back. So let's keep that momentum going forward.
I love that one, and I couldn't agree more. My next is for Yandy Diaz. So again, another Yandy Diaz New Year's resolution is we started to see it this year. He started to change his approach. He put up some very good numbers, but some very different numbers. He walked a little bit less than he had, about 4 or 5% less than he had in the last few years. He struck out a few percentage points more as well. And what it led to is more power while still getting on base at a really high clip. I want Yandy to, you know what? I hit 22 last year. I think I can hit 30. I think I can hit 35.
Ooh.
Continue to not abandon the approach that in the discipline that makes Yandy Diaz as good as he is, but to continue to see how much more can I get on the power side. I could strike out a few more times a season. That's not going to break the bank. But what might get me paid a lot of money is if I can go into my 30s and become the home run hitter that everyone I think always expected Yandy Diaz to be when you just look at the man. And so I want Yandy Diaz just sell out for some more power. I think you could do it and maybe get to that 30 home run mark for the first time in his career.
That would be pretty fun. Maybe back-to-back Silver Sluggers if he does.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I love that. I love all this Yandy Diaz.
Well, I'm a big Diaz fan, so what can I say?
I mean, yeah, he's the best. One of the all-time greats for the Rays. My last resolution is also related to a specific player. One of my all-time favorite Tampa Bay Rays. One who is much maligned. And with just one hot 20 to 30 plate appearances would allow both him and me to just rain fire on so many people and so many doubters. And that would be Brandon Lowe continuing to be the best power threat on this team, staying healthy, part of my first resolution, and being available. But going in to September, being available in October, and finally having a hot 2-week stretch of a 30 to 40 plate appearances that would then erase everything else, because that's how postseason baseball works, is you get hot for like 2 weeks, which he's been hot for 2 weeks dozens of times in his career, that has helped carry this team in those periods, but he hasn't done it in October fully. And so people are going to keep ragging about, oh, but October. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of it. And I will say, I can promise this: if he does, I will be the most insufferable bastard you've ever seen. I have been keeping receipts for years. I will be sliding into DMs of people just to say, I told you so, and you're wrong. It'll not be my proudest moment, but it'll be a moment. So just know that. And that is going to happen in 2024. That's my resolution: is Brandon Lowe gets that monkey off his back, and I use that monkey to terrorize people like King Kong.
Man, I hope that one comes true. Because I am a big Brandon. I was trying to come up with a QAnon name for Brandon Lowe. I think we are the believers, as we are with so many of our beloved Rays. My last one is for Eric Neander. Sign a catcher. Bring in a trade for a catcher. I think I've been pretty vocal at like the Pinto and Jackson duo. And I'm not here to say that like this is the difference between the Rays making the postseason or the Rays winning World Series, because it's not. But I feel like it's relatively easy to improve that position group right now for the Rays. It's probably the easiest area of their roster that they could just go out and make a move. I'm not to say that they won't, but that's the New Year's resolution part, right? Go out and get a catcher, get some more experience, get someone with maybe more of a proven track record. That's not like completely over the hill that you're paying to just stand back there. Someone that can contribute, like they're out there. You can't tell me that the plan is Renee Pinto and Alex Jackson. Maybe they're both fine. Maybe that's exactly what they'll do and it'll work out. But if I'm Eric Neander, I'm telling you, go get a catcher to start your new year off right. Maybe his name's Mike Zunino. I don't know if that makes
Oh
the team
man, back to Zunino and Brandon Lau back-to-back home runs in a wild card clinching game or a ALDS clinching game, and I might just faint. I might just get the vapor, and I might not be able to pod. You'll just
that's Darby's
catch
World
me.
Series. There,
That's why that's it. There's nothing bigger. If they do it in the World Series, it's
too much.
I mean, my God, yeah, that's incredible. I love that because I do think that is the one, even with the fact that shortstop is a gaping hole.
Yeah, for now.
And for now, I think catcher has still been a gaping hole for most of the last, I don't know, decade. There's been some great moments. Mike Zunino provided a phenomenal year, maybe the best ever as a Rays catcher. Travis d'Arnaud had some amazing moments in the second half of one season, but like we're talking pieces of catchers here. It would be great to get something going on. Maybe a Max Stassi, trade with the White Sox and bring in Max Stassi.
Didn't they just get him?
He's been traded twice already, so
yeah, they don't want him.
You know, don't unpack your bags, Max. Just keep them packed. The White Sox also signed Martin Maldonado, who I'm glad the Rays did not sign because he is bad.
Right. I don't want that level of catcher, but there are still either catchers on the trade market or.
But there are, yes.
Yeah. Like the Mariners got Mitch Garver, but is he even a catcher now anymore? I don't know.
Like it.
He's kind of in like that Mike Napoli, late stage Mike Napoli part of his career.
Yeah. John Jaso level where it's
But yeah, I mean, it's like that's the one where I'd be disappointed if we do nothing. I think I'm happy with the team otherwise.
I'm happy with Pinto as half. I like Jackson as a potential,
but Pinto really is
would like
half.
him starting in Durham. I kind of want Jackson in Durham because somebody gets hurt. Obviously, when I ask for health, I don't mean 100%. Just give me 85. But like Jackson being available in Durham would be great. I kind of want like Pinto and somebody.
But are you comfortable with Pinto being like the guy that plays 60% of the time as opposed to the guy that plays 40?
I am, because the Rays are so comfortable with it. There's something there that I'm like, I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting the process here. He had a great bat in the minors. He's shown some flashes of really good offense. He actually performed quite well last year. The defense, besides some elements, it's not a whole complete package behind the dish. There are some elements there. I
catching the ball.
That's not the best part of it. That was not his best part. But like when he did catch the ball, he would frame it well. It just sometimes you don't catch the ball. It's it may be the title of the position, but like, is that really what you need? I don't know. But like, I would love another catcher. I would love another catcher because I do think catching is a two-player position. And I think having two people who you are unsure about is not a very fun position to be in. Having one person like Pinto being unsure about, and then maybe replacing him with Austin Jackson if he doesn't work out, and another guy who is solid, that would be something. So I would like
ideal world is you've got like a catcher that you're comfortable as your number one, and then a strong defensive option as your backup that I don't care if that catcher hits or not, and then another strong defensive option in AAA to where if there's an injury, like what you don't want is to bring a catcher up from AAA that can't hit because young players that have to get called up from AAA typically don't hit very well and also can't play defense.
No, it's rough. That's the rough part. But that does sound like Mike Zunino is who you're describing.
Yeah, like if he's down,
especially with the can't hit part, like that really described Mike Zunino quite well.
But like he's gonna hit a home run for like a couple times.
He will.
He will. So that's like I say that somewhat jokingly. I don't think they're gonna. Maybe they'll invite him to spring training. I don't know. And then who knows what could happen. But yeah, I think they need to just go out and do something. So Eric, get on it. Enjoy the New Year's holiday, and then January 2nd, get back to work.
Bring
And
Papa
go get
Mike
Sketcher.
home.
Yeah, go get Mike Zeno. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. We went a little over today, but there was plenty of news to cover. So, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know exactly when you go live, and you can also listen to us on demand as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening as a podcast, rate and review. That's the best way to continue to support us. But another way you could support us now is heading on over to patreon.com/raise your voice. We're starting at $1 a month. You could say, just a little bit of thanks to Darby and I. We don't need it. We're not asking for it. But if you'd like to support the show in any way, you can head on over to patreon.com/raise your voice. As always, head on over to draysbay.com. I know that Danny Russell has been providing some updates on the Wander Franco situation as more news comes out, and there's tons of other great coverage on there as well. So once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.